very much, Elizabeth, and thank you, Patrick, and thank you to all of you for coming out tonight to kick off this campaign for another term as your mayor of the greatest city in the Commonwealth, and frankly, the greatest city in the United States. Thank you so much. I want to begin by acknowledging the many of my fellow elected officials that are here tonight, and I'm really honored by their presence. Elizabeth already mentioned, well, you're always a mayor. You're not the former mayor. Mayor Claire Higgins is here. Northwestern District Attorney, our great district attorney, who's done so much for justice here in our county, and working with him on the opioid crisis and so many other issues, David Sullivan is here. Our sheriff, our newly elected sheriff for Hampshire County, Patrick Kagelane is here. Somebody else that we're already collaborating with and working with and finding ways that the city and his department can work together. Register of Probate, Michael Carey is here. Peter Kokot sends his regrets. As many of you know, it's his and Shaunene's anniversary weekend. It was their anniversary this weekend, so they are having a long romantic weekend in Maine. So we wish them and again, I'm so grateful to Representative Kokot for his strong support. My colleagues in government from the City Council are here. City Council President and Councilor at Large and cameraman, Bill Dwight. Councilor at Large and City Council Vice President Ryan O'Donnell is here. My friend and colleague from Ward 6, City Councilor Marianne Labarge is here. Councilor David Murphy is here, although I believe he had to step out, but he was here for a bit. Ward 4 City Councilor, my City Councilor, Gina Louise Sierra is here. Ward 3 City Councilor Jim Nash is here. Ward 2 City Councilor Dennis Bidwell is here. Ward 1 City Councilor Maureen Carney is here. And last but certainly not least, Ward 7 City Councilor Elisa Klein. Now I just have to say, for those of anyone here who's from the Open Meeting Law Office, this is a chance encounter of the entire City Council. So this is a social event and a chance, a public encounter. But so great to have my colleagues in city government here, and I enjoy working with them, and I enjoy the work that we do together for the city. We also have my colleagues on the school committee here. Let's see. School committee member representing Ward 2, Laura Fallon is here. At-large school committee member Molly Burnham. Ward 7 School Committee, Downey Myers here. Did I missed any other school committee members? I hope not. And then I get to serve on 2 school committees. Northampton has 2 school districts, so I'm really pleased that my fellow member of the Smith Vocational and Agricultural High School Board of Trustees and the chair, Mike Kagelane, is here. We also have elected members of the Forbes Library Board of Trustees. We have the Vice President of the Board, Marjorie Hess, with us tonight. And Forbes Trustee, Katie White, is here. We also have our elected Community Preservation Committee member. We have 2 elected people on our Community Preservation Committee. Chris Hellman is here. So those are our elected officials, we also have candidates here tonight who are running for office. I mean, we're all running for office, but these are folks who are here as candidates hoping to become elected officials. Candidate for City Clerk Robert Driscoll is here. And we also have City Clerk candidate Pam Powers. Any other candidates here that I've missed? I hope not. Okay, just want to know how important it is to recognize candidates who are running for office. So I also want to introduce some folks who, well, is not an elected official, not a candidate, but is one of my biggest supporters and allows me to do this important work. And is also the love of my life, my wife, Yelena Mikic. Emma and Zoe, who many of you have watched grow up at these events. You know, they kind of started here, and then they got here, and then they got here. They couldn't be with us tonight because they have left our now empty nest. I know, it doesn't seem possible. And they're off on the next phase of their lives, studying, making art, and hopefully saving the world for us. So shout out to them. Now this is not part of the script and was a total surprise for me, but I'm really happy to be able to welcome first my sister Terry, who's here tonight. But also somebody I spoke about when I first ran for mayor, as one of the people who inspired me to get into public service and somebody who was involved in our community. She just recently moved to our area, and I'm really just so happy that she's able to be here tonight. My mom, Madeline Narkewicz. So it's been my incredible honor and privilege to serve our city over the last 4 years of this current term. And I'm equally honored to stand before you tonight as a candidate for re-election. We have accomplished so much together as a city since you re-elected me back in 2013. I'm running for re-election because I want to build on those successes, and I want to help us continue to meet the new challenges and the new opportunities that we face as a city. I'm going to just go through a few of those things, a few of the issues that we've worked on and some of the ones I want to work on. So I want to continue creating stable budgets that invest in our priorities and our values as a city. You may not remember, but back in 2013, when I was running for re-election last, our city faced a serious budget crisis. We had a $1.7 million budget deficit that was going to require deep cuts to our city and school budgets, including the layoff of teachers, police, and other city staff. We worked together as a community. We put together a multi-yeared fiscal stability plan that we presented to the taxpayers. Did something that not many people who are a first-term politician running for re-election, I asked people to raise their taxes so that we could save city services. And we put together a plan, not just a tax increase, but a plan, a multi-year plan that could show people how, if we took some of that funding, we invested it in the current budget, and then we put it aside and used it over the next several years, that we could build stability into our budget, and we could make sure that we could continue to invest in education, in public safety, in public works, in our seniors and our veterans over the next 4 years. It ensures that we'll be able to make the investments that we need in our infrastructure, and the investments that we need to make in healthcare and the other services that we have to provide. So we worked hard, we stuck to our plan, and for the last 4 years, we have had that fiscal stability. Each year, I've come back to the taxpayers, I've updated them on the status of the plan, and we've avoided the year after year process that we've had heretofore of cut after cut after cut. We've been rewarded for our success. We've Standard & Poor's, which many of you know, looks at our city finances, looks at our bond rating. When I began as mayor, we had an A+ bond rating. I'm proud to say that after working on this plan and after rebuilding our reserves, last year Standard & Poor's upgraded our bond rating to AAA+, which is the highest bond rating. And so while our plan is, the other important thing that's happened is that we've been able to extend the plan. The initial plan that we put together was a 4-year plan that actually was going to run out for this fiscal year. But because of the fact that we've been very careful in our budgeting, we've done a lot of work to try to build efficiencies into our budget. We've also experienced really strong economic growth in our community. We've been able to extend that plan and make it last longer. And my goal, if I'm re-elected, is to continue to work on that plan and to make sure that we can continue to provide those services without having to increase the tax burden on our residents. So that's one of the reasons that I stand before you seeking your support for re-election. I also want to continue, just drilling down a little deeper, to continue to work to support and invest in our excellent public schools. You know, my 2 daughters attended Bridge Street School, JFK, our high school, and got an incredible education. And I know there are people in this room that can share that same story. Thanks to our fiscal stability plan, we didn't have to lay off those 15 full-time teachers or cut educational programs back in 2013. Instead, we've been able to provide stable and predictable funding to our schools so that my members of the school committee and I don't have to start each budget year deciding what we're going to cut. We can actually focus on what are the educational programs that are working, what are the things that we want to do to improve education for children in our city. I'm proud to say that during my tenure as mayor, our city has increased funding for our schools by over 20%. During that same period, we've made capital investments in our schools of nearly $10 million. This includes technology, energy upgrades, library improvements, cafeteria improvements, roofs, and a whole host of other critical investments. I'm proud of my record as a champion of our public schools, and if re-elected, I will continue to make sure that all children in our community, regardless of their race, their gender, their income, or disability, have equal access to a high-quality education.
All right.
I want to continue supporting our local economy and our businesses and making strategic investments in housing and economic development. One of the keys to our budgetary success has been our strong local economy with significant new business and housing investment that have expanded our tax base. And one of the things that still distinguishes Northampton from so many other cities, what makes Northampton, Northampton, is that we have so many local businesses. My administration has worked hard to support those local businesses, both in Northampton, in Florence, and Leeds. We've also supported our cultural economy, recognizing that the arts are a key driver of our local business and tourism. And we've made investments in arts, in Arts Night Out, in the new 33 Holly Street project, and a number of other key projects to support that important part of our economy. We've invested in new parking infrastructure and technology. Yes, there's even an app for that now. You can use your app for parking. We've increased downtown city services. We've partnered with local businesses to form the new DNA. We've partnered with the Florence Civic and Business Association to tackle parking, parks renovations, and other issues in downtown Florence. We've also supported new housing, particularly in our downtown, and particularly affordable housing. Pleasant Street is a case study in this work. We've helped support 2 major mixed income and affordable housing projects right in the heart of our downtown in Pleasant Street. We've also made significant investments in our infrastructure, in our streetscape with new sidewalks, new trees, new bike lanes, new pedestrian safety improvements. Altogether, we secured almost $3 million in state grants that we have been investing in Pleasant Street to help leverage those investments in housing and economic development. And if you've taken a drive down Pleasant Street lately, you'll see that Pleasant Street is the place to be. There are businesses opening, people are renovating their storefronts, there are plans going before the planning board. So it's a real example of what government can do. You know, we can't control the economy, but we can make strategic investments, again, in housing and economic development to help spur and support economic growth, to expand our tax base and create jobs. So, I've been talking for 10 minutes and I haven't even mentioned Pulaski Park. So I've told many people if I didn't do anything else as mayor and Pulaski Park was the only project we got done, I'd still be pretty proud of that. So I'm so proud of that great project in the heart of our downtown that now so many people, seemingly from the moment we opened it, have just started using. It's a gathering place, it's an eating place, it's a dance floor, it's a hula hooping space, it's an outdoor movie theater, it's you know, it's a shadow puppet theater, it's whatever, everyone uses that space. It's obviously a great children's play center. It's a transportation hub for people that need to get to the rail trail or wait for a bus. It's really been a great investment, and then again, it's an example of what we can do when we invest in our city, and what great cities can do when they focus on creating great urban green space in the heart of their downtown. Again, everyone's loves it and really happy about it. You may not remember when this all got started a few years ago. There were a few headlines about, you know, mayor questioned about the price tag of Pulaski Park, and it actually took us a couple applications to get the first funding for Pulaski Park. But again, it is an example of what we can do when we invest. It's also a really good example, I think, of good public process. You know, Pulaski Park, Pulaski Park was not designed in some back room and then, you know, unveiled and built. We actually created a public process where we went out to the community and said, what kind of park do you want? You know, we literally, our great designers from Steven Stimson put drawings on the table, handed out magic markers and said, draw for us what you want in the park. Tell us what you want for amenities. What do you want for your children? You know, what do you want in your next downtown park? And so the park that you see today, and I think the reason why people love it is because it was really designed by all of us. It's really our park, and so I'm so proud of that. We haven't just done Pulaski Park, though. There have been a few other really important public spaces over the last 4 years. Florence Fields, you know, a beautiful new recreation area where kids are playing soccer. Which is not only an example of a great public recreation space, but we're also generating our own green energy. We're also treating that field organically, using all organic techniques. So it's also a place where we're, you know, living our values a little bit as well. The Connecticut River Greenway Park, which we just opened last year, another amazing public space where you can now access the Connecticut River off of Damon Road. We've done rail trail extensions. We built new play structures. Again, an example of the kinds of investments we can make working together to make sure that we have these quality public spaces for people to enjoy. Those are the kind of projects I want to continue to work on. I also want to continue Northampton's leadership role in sustainability, renewable energy, protecting open space and agricultural land, and addressing climate change. And again, this is a record. We've amassed a record as a city that we can really be proud of. We've increased our city's energy efficiency and reduced its carbon footprint using solar, LED streetlights, electric vehicles, resiliency planning, air sealing, energy management systems, and any other number of energy investments. We're very close to flipping the switch on a 3.1 megawatt PV array that's sitting atop our closed landfill. We were the first city in America to receive the highest 5-star rating in sustainability. We protected 300 acres of open space just this year alone, and now 25% of our city is protected for open space, conservation. Our Solarized Northampton program, led by community volunteers, more than doubled the amount of installed solar in our city. And we just launched a similar effort for high-efficiency heat pumps called Heat Smart Northampton, where again, community volunteers are going out to try to encourage energy efficiency among our residents. Our reuse committee, which I want to give a shout out to John Sass, who's a member of that. John volunteered his time tonight to make sure that we had a zero waste event. So he's at the back of the room, and he'll help you with your compost and your recycling. But our reuse committee has worked to divert tons of our waste stream to recycling and to other uses. And they've helped create the popular Reuse Center, which is our city's zero waste swap shop that people have been wanting for years, and we now have, thanks to those volunteers. Our newly created Public Shade Tree Commission. Lily Lombard is here, who's the chair of that committee. We have just finished conducting our first ever comprehensive shade tree inventory and have begun replanting our critical shade tree canopy, which is, again, not only about beautifying our city, but we know the value that trees have for affecting climate change, stormwater mitigation, just so many other benefits that they have. So prior to 2014, our city, when it did plant trees, was probably planting less than 30 a year. So for the past 3 years, Lily and the Shade Tree Commission and Tree Northampton, which is an army of volunteers, have been planting more than 250 trees a year. And we're also investing in our infrastructure for water, for sewer, and yes, stormwater and flood control. Anyone who has seen the heartbreaking images of our fellow citizens in Houston, Florida, and now Puerto Rico dealing with storms and flooding know that we must maintain and upgrade this critical infrastructure. Climate change and protecting our environment are critical issues facing our city and our planet, and again, I want to continue leading those efforts as your mayor. I also want to continue ensuring that our city government is open, transparent, and inclusive. I think Pat mentioned before my Twitter and Facebook habits. As I tell people, I use Twitter for good. I don't use it at 3 a.m., unlike other leaders that I know. But I'm really proud of the way that we have worked to make city government more open and accessible during my time as mayor. We did a refresh of our website in 2013. That's now won awards for go onto our website and actually see what we're spending individually. It's basically our checkbook register. We've published line item budgets. We've published our outside audits. We've published employee salaries. All of this is open to the public. I mentioned Pulaski Park in that public process. We've done expanded public processes for our parking, for open space, for new developments, for Walk Bike Northampton. Tomorrow night you can go up to Florence and go to one of our public forums about our historic cemeteries. I mean, we've really worked to try to bring people into the process. We even, last year, worked with Pioneer Valley Planning Commission to hold a series of meetings to figure out how we can get more people to come to meetings. But seriously, how we can make sure that people who are participating in our local government, especially low-income residents and communities of color, know and feel welcome as part of our governmental process. I'm happy to report that several of the people that actually came to those meetings, it was some of the first meetings they'd ever attended, and I've appointed several of them to serve on city committees. So we're already putting them to work and getting them involved in the community. And again, this is the kind of open and inclusive government I've tried to lead as your mayor, and will build on that record of transparency if I'm reelected. I want to continue leading Northampton on so many important fronts, keeping our city affordable for working families and the retired, serving our veterans and seniors, rebuilding our streets and sidewalks, continuing to expand passenger rail, continuing to lead on the opioid crisis facing our city and region. These are some of the issues. finally, and this is where I promise I'm going to stop and there won't be a PowerPoint or any other continuation as I'm famous for. As mayor, I've committed myself to keeping Northampton a diverse and welcoming community. And I think that's when I was first asked about running, in the few issues that came out, I think that was one of the ones that really stuck with me. I don't think any of us could have imagined 2 years ago, 4 years ago, 6 years ago, you know, where our country would be in terms of where it is right now, and the president that we have in the United States, and the daily barrage, including today with you know, North Korea threatening to shoot down our planes, and having cities, actual cities, come under attack from the President of the United States for the policies that we hold. It's one of those things that I don't think any mayor around the country thought would be part of their job description, but I've been proud to stand up for this community and stand up with this community for the values that we believe in, and to stand up for our commitment to protecting the rights of everyone, including women, minorities, people with disabilities, immigrants, and our LGBT community. Stood up to federal funding loss, to threats of federal funding loss because of our refusal to let Northampton police break trust with our immigrant communities to do the work of ICE. We've spoken out about harmful cuts to programs like Community Development Block Grant that serve our most vulnerable neighbors. And we have welcomed refugees to our community after our governor wavered and our president tried to ban them because of their religion. This is the city, these are our values at work, and this is the city that I'm proud of, and this is the city that I'm so proud to have led, and I hope I'll have the opportunity to lead it for another 4 years. We've accomplished so much since you first elected me on a platform of positive change. I ask for your support and for your vote on November 7th, so that together we can keep moving our great city forward.